Welcome all, welcome one and all. We're just opening up the waiting room and letting everybody in behind the curtain. You can sing with me if you want. Oh, Hannukah, come light the menorah. We've got a party, we'll all dance the hora. Welcome, welcome everybody. It's 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock on the East, and everything in between. Welcome to you all. I am Rabbi Devorah Lynn, the co-chair, co-founder of Jewish Earth Alliance with Muriel Goldsmith. And we are delighted that you have, you're spending this hour with us tonight. Jewish Earth, if you haven't been here before, we especially welcome you and let you know that Jewish Earth Alliance, JEA, is a network of green groups all across the country, small, medium, and large ones, to amplify the Jewish voice on Capitol Hill on climate legislation. And we've been around since 2019, and been doing this ever since the pandemic, having Zoom calls and teaching people how to lobby those people that you hire every election and how to shall I say, demand that they be bold on climate legislation. So raise your hand if you're, I don't have a full view here. Let's see, gallery. Raise your hand if this is your first time at one of our meetings. Anybody? Yeah, Josh, our speaker today. Who's that? Gordon. Welcome. Well, if you would put your name and where you're from in the chat, and if you're associated with an organization, that would be great to put that in as well.
You mean everybody or just
everybody? Oh, do you want just new people?
No, I want everybody, but it wasn't.
Yeah, we want everybody. Everybody put in your name and where you're from. And if you've got an organization that you belong to, related to Jewish or climate, let us know. So we always start our meetings, while you're doing that, we always start our meetings with some words of Torah. And we always start these briefings, certainly with words of Torah. And I wanted to start with a story from our mentor and friend, Rabbi Arthur Waskow of the Shalom Center in Philadelphia. Rabbi Waskow tells the story that he was sitting under his Bodhi tree in a forest and many years ago, and wondered why did Judaism not have a holiday to celebrate clean, renewable energy? We celebrate the stars, we celebrate the moon, we celebrate the sun, the harvest, fertility, and holidays for and of the trees. And we celebrate fruits and vegetables, grains and animals. Why, oh, why? Where is our holiday for renewable energy? So Amy has put up this picture that I'm going to describe in a few minutes. Suddenly inspired, hitting his head with his hand, Rabbi Arthur realized that since the 2nd century before the Common Era, Judaism has had a holiday that embraced sustainable energy. The miracle of keeping the lights on for 8 nights with 1 day's worth of growable olive oil is a solar engineer and climate activist dream. Zechariah, the last prophet, in chapters 2 to 4, dreamt a dream so literally to literally power a menorah directly by hooking up tubes from an olive orchard into the temple's menorah. So you can see that here. This is the 7-day menorah, the one for the daily lighting. And you can see these 2 beautiful olive trees. And they have tubes going directly that you can see at the top up there. They're going directly into the cups that are atop each of the arms of the menorah. I mean, this is from the Zechariah's dream is 2,500 years old. And this beautiful vision was illustrated by an artist named Joseph the Frenchman in 1300. And we read this very dream about the menorah fueled by olive oil every year from Zechariah. On what holiday? Hanukkah, of course. Rabbi Waskow jumped for joy. Behold, Hine, he said, this holy holiday for clean, renewable energy was there all along. And he and we just did not see it. We didn't see the light. May your 8 lit nights bring dreams and visions of a clean, green, enlightened world in these dark times. And tonight we're going to have a bit of a party atmosphere. First, Mirala is going to offer us some games to propose something new for Jewish Earth Alliance. I'll let you explain that, Mirala. I'm muted. You're muted.
I'm muted?
Yeah, hi. There you go.
Okay. Hi. Happy Hanukkah, everybody. Can you all just unmute for 1 second and say Happy Hanukkah?
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Oh, that's so much.
Happy Hanukkah.
That is so much better. Okay. So our first challenge is to come up with a new Jewish climate slogan, something that could fit on a bumper sticker. It can be in Hebrew, it can be in English or any other language. We started, Great Miracles Happen Here was actually Nes Gadol Bekol Makom. And then of course we have one in Yiddish, Veyizmir, the atmosphere. Oh no, the atmosphere. So we're going to put you into groups. You're going to be in a group of 4. Now listen to these instructions very carefully. You're going to be brainstorming in this group. The person whose birthday is closest to Hanukkah is going to be the high priest, the senior Maccabee of your group. That's the person who, when we come back together, is going to put your slogan into the chat. Okay? So the slogan you come up with is going to go into the chat. Please put the names of the people in your group along with your slogan. And the reason for that is that when you all come back, we're going to vote on the best slogan. And we have wonderful prizes for you. So please take this challenge very seriously. We want your best and most creative thinking. So again, you're going to be in a group in a moment. We're putting you in breakout groups. The person with the birthday closest to Hanukkah is going to be responsible for basically note-taking. When we come back all together, you're going to put your slogan that your group came up with in the chat with your names. If there are no names, we won't know who you are. We won't be able to give you the prizes. Okay? Got all that? So now I'm going to turn it over to Amy, who's going to put us into our breakout groups. Go get them!
I think we have some people now who've joined who aren't in breakout rooms.
I think you can send them to a breakout room.
Okay, let me see if I can do that. Oh yeah, I'll send her to breakout room. Okay. Assign to room 3. Thank you.
Send someone to room 2 because I'm supposed to be in room 2.
Everybody else is assigned.
Well, there's 2 people there, Mark Blumenthal and Vivian Kane. Oh, they're in our group. Is that what it is? Mark and Vivian, are you here? Oh, you know what they did? They probably didn't go. They're not paying attention, so they didn't go.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not going either.
Okay, so should I make you the host now? I think I do.
Wait a second. No, wait. Let's. No, first we have the comedian.
Okay, I'm gonna make you host when he's on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope I'll be able to see the chat. Maybe I should take notes before I do it.
Come on, Dory, I'm gonna assign you a breakout room.
Were you watching the time? I wasn't.
No, it's been about 3 minutes. Should I give them 1 more minute?
And then, yeah. And then then they get another minute from the.
Right. Okay, Mirla, that's 8:11. Should I go ahead and close the rooms?
Did they have 5 minutes, you think?
No.
It seemed very fast. I don't know. There's 4 people in the group.
Does
think-
seem fast.
Mm.
Two more minutes.
Yeah.
I'll give them 2 more minutes and then I'll hit close rooms.
Okay.
There was 1 minute just went by.
Where are all the people? Over 80 people registered.
And how many are listed?
I think about
How many
30,
are here? 40?
something like that. I guess that's about the right, that's
Yeah.
actually normal. Yeah, 50%. Yeah.
There's 37 participants.
Okay, well, I guess that explains that. Hope springs eternal that the people will all come.
I only see I only see 5 people on mine.
Yes, that's because we went into breakout groups and
Oh,
but
okay.
everybody's coming back now.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you for coming, Gloria. What they're doing is they're brainstorming a new bumper sticker for the Jewish climate movement. So you think
Oh.
about your best idea, your most creative idea.
Yeah.
We're gonna have prizes, so if it's a good idea, you could win one, like a beautiful hat like mine.
Oh.
Isn't that tempting? What's so funny, Amy? Okay, you can close the groups now.
I did. They're closing in half a minute now.
Okay, so
You're just such a cute little model for the hat. It matches your shirt.
I know. Where's my Hannukah donut?
9 seconds and the groups are closing. I'm going to go off of audio.
Welcome back. Hope you had fun out there. Don't forget to put your slogan in the chat because I need to know what it is so that we can have the vote very shortly.
I'm sorry to say there were 9 people in our group and we're still discussing things, when
When it was over?
we don't,
Well, are you the leader? Are you the high priest?
I am.
Well, then
yeah.
you'll have to pick from the things that came up. Be, take authority. Be a
Okay,
leader. Be a leader.
Our
okay.
group pretty much had bupkis, so.
Bupkis. Bupkis. I'm sure you can
I'm
make-
saying we came up with 0, so. it's not
I
even a
know
good
what
number.
bupkis means, but keep working on it. Maybe you could, bupkis, carbon emissions.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, put that in the chat.
Instead of 0, huh?
Yeah. You can keep working on it. Okay, put it in the chat and
Oh,
now.
I've got an idea.
Okay, good. I'm turning it back
I'm
over.
gonna send it to my group. Where's my
Good.
group?
I'm turning it back over to Devorah now. Devorah, you're on
Okay.
mute.
Yeah,
Introduce
Bobby's
our
got one.
special-
Let a new light shine with
was-
renewable resources.
This is from Melanie.
Devorah, we're going to be reviewing them after the.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We're going to review
break
them.
the media
Okay.
now.
Okay, we're going to review them after the speaker. Okay. So tonight's not a typical monthly network briefing. So if you're new to our meetings, this is not quite typical. 2 weeks ago, we had an emergency briefing that included our action alert to press the White House to deny liquid natural gas permits before President Biden left office, leaves office. And we encourage you to continue that work and keep calling the White House on this because it could have very long lasting effects. It would be hard to undo. After the election, we figured you, our partners, would be exhausted. And in anticipation of Congress going home for the holidays, we wanted to offer you all a Hanukkah gift in our December gathering tonight. So our guest tonight leads a double life. By day, in the lab and in the field, he is Josh Willis, PhD, the principal investigator for NASA's Oceans Melting Greenland, abbreviated OMG, which is a joke in itself, program where he studies how ocean temperatures affect Greenland's massive glaciers. By night, with his training from Second City Comedy, training in Hollywood, he transforms into Climate Elvis to better communicate his work to a broader audience. It's a pleasure to welcome you tonight, Josh, to delight and inspire our hardworking network. The stage or the iceberg is yours.
Thank you so much, Devorah. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it's really great to see so many enthusiastic folks who are willing to take action. A lot of my friends who know that I'm a climate scientist, when I'm going on a trip somewhere or I'm going back to work, they always say, keep saving the planet. And it's sweet that they say that, but as a scientist, I'm really not saving the planet. I'm really just kind of documenting its destruction. But the truth is that people like you are really doing the work that's saving the planet. Every time I give a lecture, people ask me, what can I do about climate change? And it's always great to, try to plant a tree and drive a Prius and recycle. But the thing you can do that's most important is talk to your elected representatives and tell them that this is important. And so I just want to take a second and thank all of you for the work that you do, because that's what's really going to save the planet, not me. But hopefully we can have a laugh or two, and I can tell you a little bit about what I do. And by way of introduction, I'm going to share my screen here and show you some stuff that I hope is fun and entertaining. See if we can get this to work. There we go. What you're looking at right here is a picture of me in front of a SpaceX rocket that's about to carry what was then our next mission to measure sea level from space. It was called Sentinel-6 Michael Freilich. And that was me in my favorite NASA sweatshirt during the pandemic. And so I've actually studied global warming using satellites that measure the rise of the oceans from space, and how the sea levels are changing around the globe. And I've been doing this about 20 years now. In 2016, I was still doing this. I was the lead scientist for this mission called Jason 3. And it was one of the first NASA satellites to launch on a SpaceX rocket. And at the time, SpaceX was still trying to land the rocket on one of the barges, one of the ships. So I was at the press conference, and a reporter asked me about it. So I'm going to show you a little video about what happened, sort of to explain who I am and what I'm all about. So this is a true story. This really happened.
We'll take questions now, and we'll start right here at the front.
Can or will you guys care to comment on the launch vehicle?
I will say that we're excited to get a ride to space, and we hope SpaceX breaks a leg.
So that's me. I'm that guy. I'm that guy who said break a leg to SpaceX, and then the leg literally broke and the rocket exploded 3 days later. But the good news was that our satellite made it to space, and it's been measuring sea levels ever since. And SpaceX didn't seem to have any hard feelings. The very next rocket that they tried to land on a barge was successful, and they've been reusing those rockets ever since. So the other thing you'll notice is that my voice is getting a little raspy. I've had a cold for the last 2 weeks, so I'm going to do a little bit of talking, but I'm also going to show you a fair number of videos here, just to kind of save my voice, and then answer a few questions, I hope, at the end. If there are some, I'm happy to do that. So as I said, I study the oceans. I study global warming specifically, and as you all know, the climate is changing. Humans are heating up the planet. And over the last 150 years or so, we've raised the global temperature by more than 1 degree Celsius on average. And we're doing that by burning fossil fuels. We dig up these fuels out of the ground, whether it's coal or oil or natural gas. We burn it, and when it burns, it breaks down into carbon dioxide, and that carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for thousands of years, and it's raising the level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. And so over the last 150 years, we've increased the levels. It's actually more than 400 parts per million, 420 parts per million now. This is actually changing the way our planet works in terms of its climate. Why did I say that about SpaceX? Well, they really did launch our satellite, and I really did say break a leg. But I didn't really know that the rocket was going to blow up. So that was just a happy coincidence, I guess, depending on your point of view. But anyway, the way our atmosphere is changing when we add greenhouse gases to the atmosphere is that the sunlight that comes in through the atmosphere mostly is transparent. It goes right through the air, and it warms up the surface of the Earth. And that warm surface of the Earth tries to send the heat back out to space, but the carbon dioxide traps that heat. So the big question, what happens to that heat? Where does that heat go? And it turns out that over 90% of that heat that we're trapping with the extra greenhouse gases are actually warming the oceans. So the oceans are actually the place where the vast majority of global warming is happening. So we live in the atmosphere, of course. We care about it warming an awful lot, but most of the action is really in the oceans. So the oceans are kind of like the flywheel of our climate. They're really bearing the brunt of the change that we're causing. And this drives sea levels higher for a couple of different reasons I'll get to a little bit later. But before I do that, I want to take a minute here and tell you a little story about climate change and some of my efforts to talk about climate change with different groups of people. This is also a true story, but it's a rather embarrassing one. That last one was kind of embarrassing too, but this one's even more embarrassing. So I actually tell this story as a character, sort of a film noir detective type named Guy Scientist. And so I'm gonna let Guy Scientist tell you this story, this true story, for a few minutes. There's not a video with this, but there are a few slides showing different pictures of me telling the story. But hopefully it kind of makes sense and you'll enjoy it. So here goes a true story by Guy Scientist.
It was a bright, clear Tuesday afternoon in a state known for its sunshine. The kind of Southern California day that makes you wish you called in sick and headed for the Getty with a bottle of $2 Chuck and a foot-long from Subway. But today was no picnic. I was headed right into the belly of the beast. One of the most conservative places known to man, Orange County. I'd been invited to the Newport Beach Country Club to give a talk on global warming to some group of good old boys. They were called the Blue Jays or Sparrow Club, something like that. They were old world power brokers, CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, rich oil barons. The kind of men who don't drive hybrids and want to make America great again. But I was ready. I've given my global warming talk 1,000 times to 1,000 different school children and soccer moms and city council members. I showed up early. That way I could clock the old timers and pass judgment on them as they entered. The place was fancy. Expensive carpets, hardwood tables covered in white linen, and more oak on the walls than a barrel of Jack Daniels. My suspicions were confirmed as they started to arrive. They were old, all right. They had more pacemakers than Dave Brubeck's rhythm section. And white, too. I've seen more diversity in a bowl of basmati rice. Matter of fact, everybody in that place with a skin tone darker than Donald Trump's teeth was wearing a tuxedo and handing out hors d'oeuvres. I had my work cut out for me, all right. I was flying high. I told a few jokes to get them in the mood. Like, it's so hot in the Arctic. I said, it's so hot in the Arctic. There we go. It's so hot the polar bears are threatening to build a wall to keep the brown bears from moving north. Yeah, you guys get it, but not this crowd. No. My punchlines landed like a lead brick on Spanish tile. I moved on to some charts and graphs. I provided incontrovertible evidence that the Earth was warming faster now than any time in the last 10,000 years. I looked out into the audience. They were not impressed. Matter of fact, I've seen more trust in the eyes of a 5-year-old on the metro clutching an Elmo doll in his tiny white-knuckled hands. It was time to bring out the big guns. Time for the balloon gag. The balloon gag is a simple physics experiment designed to illustrate the heat capacity of the oceans. You see, the oceans absorb more than 95% of the heat trapped by greenhouse gases. Why? Because water, that's why. Water sucks up heat faster than a desperate housewife downs mojitos on a hot summer day. And once it gets in the ocean, heat stays for 1,000 years, just like your in-laws after dinner. I pulled out my balloon. I inflated it with air. I flipped open my trusty Zippo. The tall, lanky flame moved closer and closer to the skin of the balloon until, bam! It exploded like a firecracker on Cinco de Mayo. Now I had their attention. I explained that the balloon filled with air couldn't take the heat, but fill up a balloon with water, it can take more flames than Sean Spicer at a press conference. Simple physics. Flames can't pop a balloon filled with water. I pulled out my water balloon. I held it up high. This was it. This was the moment I won the hearts and minds of the climate deniers. I opened my trusty Zippo. I brought the flame towards the skin of the balloon and bam! It exploded like a bottle of cheap champagne across the bow of an oil tanker. Instantly, my arm was soaked and water rained down onto the expensive carpet in a river of liquid shame. A small brown man appeared out of nowhere in a white tuxedo and laid a napkin over the wet spot on the floor. Apparently, these guys were so rich, they didn't even have to obey the laws of physics. And that was the moment I knew. That nice guy, climate scientist, Josh Willis, his days were numbered. He had to change. After the incident, they peppered me with questions about climate data and natural cycles. I gave them all the right answers, but there were no more winning hearts and minds that day. I packed up my things and headed for the door. I looked up into the sun. At least it was still shining. "You win this round, Sparrow Blue Jay Club," I said. "But you haven't heard the last of Guy Scientist."
So there you go. That's my little story about about speaking about climate change and my failed balloon experiment. To this day, I still don't know why the water balloon popped. If you do that experiment at home, usually it doesn't pop. But it does try to demonstrate the importance of the oceans in terms of climate change. You know, we think a lot about the atmosphere, but really a lot of the actions happening in the oceans. And that kind of brings me to the sort of next part of what I wanted to talk to you about. So these satellites that I work on, the sea level satellites, they literally measure the height of the ocean by flying around. They circle the Earth about once every 10 days, and they bounce a radar beam off the surface. This radar measures how long it takes for that beam to go down and come back up, and then that tells us how far away the ocean is. Then we measure the position of the satellite very accurately. And with those two pieces of information, we can tell how tall the water is. And the water height tells us a whole bunch of things. Of course, sea levels are rising, and when you average it across the globe, we get a measure of global sea level. But it also tells us where the warm spots and cold spots are in the ocean. So whenever the water is actually warmer, it literally stands taller, it's higher. And if there's a column of water that's colder, just the expansion of water means that the thermal expansion of water means that that water stands shorter. So the satellites are giving us a look at how heat moves around in the ocean, and even currents. Currents in the ocean tilt the ocean surface. So a current that's moving moving away from you in the northern hemisphere, the sea level would be high on the right of that current and low on the left of that current. And so using this sea level data, we can find out about ocean currents, about where the heat is in the ocean. And this is important for things like tracking oil spills, tracking debris fields, predicting hurricanes and how they intensify. The hurricanes will intensify much more rapidly if it's warm, not just at the surface, but over depth. And that's what makes the sea level such a good measure, such a good tool for predicting hurricane intensity. So these tools are very important, but these satellites are very important. But for the last 30 years, they've also been measuring the rise in the oceans. And during the last 30 years, sea levels have gone up about 10 centimeters since the satellites have been measuring. And there's a lot of really detailed information in this data. This is the global average of sea levels over the last 30 years measured by these satellites, go all the way back to the early 1990s. And you can see this yearly up and down in the data. Every year, the sea levels go up. They go up during summer. And then during winter, the atmosphere is actually evaporating water from the ocean. It rains down on land. And it keeps some of the water out of the ocean for half the year. In the summer, it starts to run back off and the oceans go back up. This up and down of the sea level is literally showing us the heartbeat of the planet as the atmosphere moves water back and forth between the ocean and the land. This is what drives our entire hydrologic cycle, allows us to do things like grow crops on land and have drinking water. So it's incredibly important. But what you can see in this data is over the last 30 years, the rise caused by global warming is many times larger than the natural cycle of water moving back and forth between ocean and land. So we're really seeing profound changes on the planet. And these satellites are one of our most important tools for doing that. Now, I don't just work on the satellites. I also, for the last several years, all the way up through 2021, I was doing a mission called Oceans Melting Greenland. This was an airborne mission, so we flew a plane around Greenland to try and understand how the oceans were melting away Greenland's ice from below, because of course, part of the rise that you see here is due to ice loss in places like Greenland and Antarctica. So we did a big experiment in Greenland to try and understand exactly how the ice loss is happening. And I'm going to show you another little video for just a second about how this experiment worked and some of the footage that we took when we were there.
There's enough ice here in Greenland to raise sea levels by 25 feet all the way around the world. It's an incredible amount of ice, and it's melting and adding to sea level rise. For Oceans Melting Greenland, what we really want to do is measure the oceans, measure the ice, and watch them change together year on year, and try and answer the question, how much are the oceans melting away the ice, as opposed to the air, which is what most people have studied so far. It's really a breathtaking landscape. These giant mountains and canyons are all along the coast. When you look out the window, you really get a sense of just how huge these glaciers are, these gigantic rivers of ice that are draining the ice out of Greenland into the ocean. And then they reach the ocean and it gets all broken and craggy and big chunks fall off. It's incredibly dramatic. Kulasuk is just a tiny little town in southeast Greenland, and we've been launching probes out of here for the past 4 or 5 days. It's already been a fantastic year for OMG measuring the oceans. We launch them right out of this tube right over here. Open up the tube, you can look right down it and see the water passing by, or sometimes the icebergs or clouds or whatever it is we're flying over. We slow down a little bit and we just push these big gray cylinders out of the bottom of the plane, and they fall to the ocean and measure the temperature and salinity when they get there and radio it back to the plane. We're really trying to look at the ice and ocean all the way around Greenland. So we're dropping 250 profilers. We're going to cover the coastline all the way around. And in the spring, we map out the glaciers with a radar, also all the way around. So we're really looking at mapping all of the ocean ice interactions in Greenland as best we can with one mission.
So that's just a little introduction to the OMG mission. But one of the immediate questions, we have satellites that measure the amount of ice in Greenland, and they can see literally that Greenland is losing ice, losing mass. And it turns out that most of the ice that it's losing is around the edges, close to the oceans. And the glaciers in Greenland, by and large, all of them actually reach the water. There's a few that don't, but the vast majority of them carry their ice all the way to the oceans and empty into the oceans. And so the very special nature of this means that the oceans can have an impact on the glaciers. So I'll show you another short animation. This one's narrated by me at a time when I didn't have a cold. It's very short, but it gives you an idea of how the ocean ice interaction works.
The sheet of ice that covers Greenland contains enough frozen water to raise oceans by 25 feet across the globe. As the planet warms, glaciers melt, causing sea levels to rise. But not all of that melt happens at the surface. In the summertime, rivers and pools of meltwater find their way down through the glacier to the bed below. From there, the water runs beneath the glacier until it reaches the ocean. Because meltwater contains no salt, it weighs less than ocean water and rises up the front of the glacier in what scientists call a plume. Around Greenland, oceans are cold and fresh near the surface and warm and salty at depth. As the plume rises, it draws in the warm, salty water, melting the glacier face from the bottom up. Eventually, a piece of the glacier breaks off, making an iceberg in a process known as calving. As the oceans warm, calving speeds up, causing glaciers to retreat and flow faster. Faster glaciers dump more ice into the oceans and drive sea levels higher across the globe.
I'll come back to that question about the permafrost. The basic idea is that the glaciers in Greenland are really in direct contact with the oceans. And so what we tried to do in the mission Oceans Melting Greenland was to fly around and measure all the ice using a radar once a year for several years, and then measure the water temperatures all around Greenland once a year for several years, and then look at how the water temperature changes affected the glaciers. And we collected some really amazing footage. This is just a couple fun videos of us flying around. We didn't really fly this fast. This is a time-lapse video, but it shows us flying over an ice tongue in the Petermann ice shelf, actually, and dropping a probe in this little tiny piece of open water to try and measure the temperatures in there. So we were really able to get right up next to the ice in a lot of places and measure the water temperatures. This was another glacier edge in East Greenland, and you can see this brown pool of water here. This is actually where one of those plumes of fresh water has risen up the face of the glacier, and it's actually carrying a lot of dirt from underneath the bottom of the glacier. That's why the water looks muddy, and it's actually kind of roiling as the water comes up. And we dropped a probe in here, and if you look carefully when the video plays, you'll see just how close we were to this giant ice face. You can see the shadow of the airplane right here as it goes by. And we dropped a probe right there in that giant pool of meltwater and collected data from it. It looked like this. Here was the ice front, and here's where we got our profile. So we did a couple hundred profiles a year and really charted the ocean conditions all the way around Greenland for really 6 years and watched the ice react. And using that data along with some simulations and other models, what we basically found was that when the oceans are warm or warming, the ice loss is much more rapid. And then due to natural cycles, sometimes cool water makes it onto the shelf, or relatively cool, and the ice loss slows. So the speed of ice loss in Greenland is really in an important way being controlled by not just the amount of air warming, but the water temperatures nearby as well. And if you think all the way back to the beginning of the talk, when I mentioned that over 90% of the heat we're trapping with the greenhouse gases is actually warming the oceans, you can tell that in the long run, these warmer waters are going to be melting the ice more rapidly from Greenland as well. So we're going to be in for a lot more rapid rise from Greenland in the long run too.
So Josh, this is absolutely fascinating. I've learned quite a bit about your work, but I promised people Climate Elvis.
Okay,
and
yes.
You wanted to tackle a couple of questions, and we
For
only
sure.
have another couple minutes. So
For sure.
let's hear a little bit.
This was my
about
last slide. It's right
Okay.
here, and I'm gonna mute myself and go.
Yeah.
Hello there, little lady.
Say, what's climate?
Well, you curious little ankle biter. Climate is the...
What?
Let me try something a little different.
Sunny on Sunday, high 73. Monday, rain was pouring down on me. Tuesday was cold, I almost froze my toes. Oh, what's it gonna be next week? Who knows? That's weather. Oh, that's the weather you got. But you take a bunch of weather and you average it together and you're doing the climate rock. A climate is the average of the weather you see. The critters and plants all know where to be. A cactus can't live in the tropical rain, and polar bears don't dig by rain. That's climate.
Wait a minute. So, are you saying that plants and animals know about climate too?
Well, that's right, little Miss Jane Goodall. Every living thing on Earth is adapted to the very specific climate that it lives in.
Wow, that's wild.
That's not just wild.
That's climate. Oh, that's the climate you got. Maybe you take a bunch of weather and you average it together and you're doing the climate rock.
Well, there you go.
That's Climate Elvis. Sorry, I ran a little bit over, but
No, it's okay.
I hope you enjoyed it. Thank
As
you.
far as a job, I hope so. It takes a long time to make changes in the agencies, even with new leadership. Yeah, that's what we hope for. All right. Well, thank you so much, Josh. This was both informative and great to see the Elvis impersonation. I grew up in Elvis. You're too young for that, right? I grew up.
Well, I mean, we overlapped a little.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Your mouth to the goddess's ear. That's what it is. All right. So we're going to go. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This was really
my pleasure.
A terrific
I can
addition
continue to answer questions in the chat if you like.
Okay, that'd be great. That's great. If you have any more questions, put them in the chat and Josh will do his best to answer them quickly or succinctly, I should say. So thank you very, very much. And we wish you the best in your work, success and continued success and no more broken legs. Okay, there you go. All right, so now Muriel is going to come back and we're going to vote on the bumper stickers. Are you there, Muriel?
I am here. Okay.
Good.
So trying to be the Zoom host, to be honest with you, a little overwhelmed here. Okay, remove that one. Okay, let's see. Are we all here? Okay, very good. Here we go with the poll. We're going to ask everybody to vote. Okay, can you see the poll?
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah.
Mother Earth says Chutzpah Platz is ahead. Do-do, 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 do-do.
Where's the poll again? Is it in the chat?
Didn't it pop up on your screen?
No, not on mine.
Okay, there's people voting, so I don't know why it didn't pop up on your screen.
Do you have two screens? It may be on one and you're looking at the wrong one.
There's something that says polls, quizzes. If you're, I'm looking on an iPhone, and if you hit the more
Try
button,
it. Try it.
it worked. It worked. I'm telling other people it
Oh,
worked,
okay. You're
It
on
worked.
an iPhone. Click on polls and quizzes.
and it works. There we go.
Okay, we're getting pretty close. 33 people have voted. I'm still waiting for another 8 people. Okay. Now's your last chance. 38, 39.
Get to vote because I don't know where to put it. I couldn't get my chat to work.
You don't see something that says polls and quizzes at the bottom?
I like what what do you, that one, the one that said, what do you think, what do you like,
Okay, well, we got 39 people. That's pretty good. We're ending the poll. Okay, share results. Can you see the results? Yay! Okay, so it looks
Yeah.
like clean air, clean water. What's not to like?
like.
Winner!
But-
Woo, we have a winner.
You need someone to say that though. If it's on a bumper sticker, I don't know if it.
Okay, I'm gonna get you to say it. Okay, at the
Yeah.
count of 3, I want you to say it with great feeling. Okay,
Right.
1, 2, 3.
Clean water, clean air. What's not to like?
Great.
That was
Okay.
my best like Jewishy accent.
That was awesome. I want to let you know that I'll be checking the chat for your names. Make sure if you were in that group that your name is there. And we have some great swag for you. Some of it, most of it made by me, upcycled. Aren't you impressed with that? Upcycling. I'll be in touch with you about your prizes. Thank you very much. And now I think I'm turning it over to, is it Phyllis?
Yes, Phyllis,
Okay.
please. Phyllis is going to fill us in. Oh, Phyllis is going to fill us in on Tu B'Shvat Lobby Day coming up.
Yep, I am. Can you see my screen?
It's very little.
It's very little.
Oh, you can make it big. Individually,
Yeah.
you can make it bigger.
Yeah, I will.
No, I mean, even I could make it bigger.
How about that?
There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so we are doing our annual Tu B'Shvat lobbying. This will be a number of years we've been doing this, and each year it grows. We have more people, more states, more senators' aides that we're working with. So we want to encourage everybody tonight to sign up. And I put in the chat, and I'm sure other people can continue putting in the chat the registration link. We're asking very simple information from you, especially where you live, because senators want to know that. And we're starting to make contact with our senators, so we go state by state. So the Tu B'Shvat Lobby Day is Thursday, February 13th, a day before some other people celebrate another holiday, but we're celebrating Tu B'Shvat that day, which is the new year for trees and been taken over by the environmental movement for the climate in general. So we are lobbying. It's a totally remote lobbying. And we want to welcome new and returning participants. We make it very easy for everybody to lobby. We establish the meeting for you, which, believe me, is the hardest part of the whole lobbying process. We give you the talking points, and this year we're going to be giving you a couple of different types of talking points so that you're talking appropriately to the senator that you're talking to. We're going to have a training at our next meeting, which is Tuesday, January 21st, 8 o'clock in the East, 5 o'clock in Pacific time. And in the chat, we have the link for you to sign up for that. We will break everybody into groups by state so you can meet everybody else. So we're asking you, our action tonight is sign up for Lobby Day. And our second action is to be thinking about people who don't live in states where there's lots of Jews. So do you have a friend that lives in Montana, in North Dakota, in Mississippi, in Maine? I mean, maybe you can recruit them to be to lobby with us on for climate action. So we're looking particularly at states where we, like, beside Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Illinois, California, and Florida, of course. So what we will be doing on our lobby day, Thursday, February 13th, first of all, it's a brand new Congress, which means that any bill that we've worked on in the past 2 years is no longer a bill. It has to be reintroduced. So we've worked on all kinds of bills that didn't get across the finish line. And any of those bills need to be reintroduced. It's an opportunity for us to make a relationship with the new senators' aides. There's a fair number, I think it's about 1/3 of the senators are new every single time. So there's a lot of new senators. We want to tell them who Jews are, that we care about the environment, what Jewish Earth Alliance is, and that we want to be in a relationship with them where they can trust us, they can ask us questions, we can ask them. There's a fair number, 2/3 of the senators are already existing, and we've met with about 1/3 to 1/2 of those existing senators. We want to continue that relationship. Sometimes after an election, we have new aides. There's a lot of people changing jobs after an election. But we want to continue the relationship that we have with ongoing senators. We will be asking for different talking points with different senators, and we're going to try to find common ground. We want to continue raising sustainability issues before the senators. We're going to be doing this throughout the year, so this is our way of saying face to face, you can see us, you know who we are, as we continue to call you and write letters. So I just be very happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions for Phyllis? You can either put in the chat or raise your hand. Let's see. Any raised hands? Let me see if I can see. The main thing is invite a friend, and invite a friend from South Dakota.
North Dakota.
Sorry, North Dakota.
Yes, Susan.
Will you be giving us a little bit more prep time than has happened in the past? Because sometimes, like we only have a short breakout room. Could we have longer breakout sessions?
Yeah,
so we can really explain what the different jobs are and equally give them out so it doesn't just fall on one person at the last minute.
Yeah, so that's a great question. We've gotten that feedback in the past, and what we're going to do is we're going to end our meeting early, then break into the breakout rooms, and then the people can stay in the breakout rooms as long as they want, or they can establish another meeting time. And I've always, I'm in Pennsylvania, we always establish another meeting time because people sign up after that date, but we will have more time. Judy is going to be doing training with the leads, so the leads will be better informed. The leads will be able to answer more questions. But that was a great question, and thank you for the feedback, because more time is really important. And there was a second question, I believe. Yeah, Nadine.
Sometimes when I sign up, I don't get something back right away that they know that I'm signed up. Are we supposed to get that back right away or not? And secondly, once we sign up for, there's like 2 meetings as I recall.
Right.
And so can you just explain the mechanics of that?
Sure. So the first one we want you to sign up for is the lobby day itself, and that's the bit.ly, the bit.ly URL, the bit.ly link rather, and that's the form you have to fill out, giving them your information about your address and things of this nature. And because we want you to come to the training session, there's a second form to fill out, and that's so that you can get the link to come to the training session. So thank you for clarifying that. That is confusing. Your first question is sometimes people sign up and they don't hear for quite a while. We are trying our best to make sure we communicate. Those of you who signed up prior to 6 o'clock tonight should have gotten an email from me saying, thank you for registering, we'll be in touch. But we know we'll get a lot of people signing up in the next couple of weeks. We do have 2 student interns working with us. As soon as they finish their exams, they will be confirming the email. So if you, in the next 2 weeks or week and a half, it should be coming from me, but you won't know it'll come from our website, our common Gmail account, but we will be doing that. So Steve Katz says he's inviting his Oklahoma friends. Yay, that's absolutely the state we need. Yeah.
Thanks. I'm looking at the time. I want to mind the time. If you have a question, put it in the chat, and maybe Phyllis, do you want to put your email in? Do you mind doing that?
Sure.
If other people if after the meeting you have a question, although we usually stay on the call for the 10 or 15 minutes. So if you have questions, please stay on. So I'd like to call on Melanie on our steering committee, Rabbi Melanie Aaron, and she's going to bless us with a closing for our meeting.
So we began this evening with that image from the prophet Zechariah from the Haftorah for Hannukah, and its wonderful interpretation by Rabbi Waskow that related it to the miracle of the oil and the miracle of renewable energy. But this miracle of the oil has always been somewhat problematic to me because it's such a latecomer to the story of Hanukkah. It's found in the Talmud, which is hundreds of years later. It seems it probably was written by the rabbis to make sure the Jewish people of their time stopped rebelling against Rome, since that had been such a failure. It also, as miracles go, it doesn't stand up so well against the splitting of the Sea of Reeds or the sun standing still for Joshua. But recently I heard a wonderful explanation of the miracle of Hanukkah from the Talmud, from Masechet Avodah Zarah, about the very first Hanukkah celebration. So just to give you a little background, the rabbis didn't believe really in chronology. So there's nothing earlier and there's nothing later. So for them, the very first Hanukkah was the Hanukkah of Adam and Eve. How did Adam and Eve happen to be celebrating Hanukkah? Well, it was November and December, or Tevet and Kislev, and the days were getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And Adam and Eve didn't know about the cycle of the year, and so they thought the days would get shorter and shorter and shorter until the world would end, and they were very frightened. And then it turned around, and the days began getting longer and longer. There was more sunlight, and they had a wonderful celebration. And that celebration was the first Hanukkah. So this week, I heard Rabbi Avi Dabush of the Rabbis for Human Rights in Israel, and he said that Hanukkah of Adam and Eve is what we need, because we need the faith that things get worse and then they will get better. We need to have that hope and that courage to preserve the hope that things can improve. And so I say, may a new light shine on us. May we find the determination to work for improvement. I hope to see you all at Lobby Day on February 13th. Take care and have a wonderful Hanukkah.
Thank you so much, Melanie. That was terrific. A terrific encouragement to keep going, not to give up, not to despair, to keep going. And I hope we are blessed with the support of each other to keep this sacred work going from higher to higher.
Typed in the
From
chat.
strength to
don't
strength.
mop. But
All
I
right.
think they meant don't mope.
Thank you all for waiting a couple of minutes after the hour. And as we said, we'll stay on for another 10 minutes or so if you have further questions. God bless, and tzedek tzedek tirdov, keep pursuing justice, and we'll see you at our next meeting in January.
Happy Hanukkah.
Oh, happy Hanukkah. And Josh, I want to thank my steering committee for all your support, and Josh Willis for his wonderful talk tonight. Those photos and videos were just amazing.